There are 6 habits that I'm going to be discussing in this video that will instantly level up your creative skills. These habits apply to all situations and not just one specific style or type of build. To start off, here's an overview in simple terms of the 6 habits I'll be talking about in this video: inspiration, planning, simplicity, predictability, detail, and the big picture. Now, there's 2 things to keep in mind throughout this video. Number 1, these are general habits and can sometimes be bypassed for the good of the build. And secondly, I focus on improving build concepts rather than situation-specific builds. But without any further ado, let's get started. Number 1, inspiration. A good way to get ideas is through inspiration. I'm not saying to copy other people's builds, that's called plagiarism, and plagiarism is bad. But for real, seeing builds from other people will boost your imagination and help you create original ideas. Say you're building a house in a certain style. Search images of houses in that style and get a good mix of Minecraft images versus real life / concept art images. And make sure to look back at those reference pictures as often as you can. Obviously, change anything you don't like and add ideas from your imagination or from other images that you liked. Number 2, planning. Make sure to plan out your builds. Everything from the style to the palette to the shapes that you use should be chosen ahead of time. Sometimes I forget why creative mode is called what it's called. It's for being creative. Yeah, go figure. But seriously, it doesn't have to feel like cheating. Creative mode builds allow you to plan a whole lot better. If there's a survival build that you're working on, you can choose the palette and wireframe it in a creative world before you go out and collect all the resources. I suggest wireframing sections of the build with wool and making sure that the shapes are interesting before you put it into a survival setting. Number 3, don't overcomplicate your builds. Don't over-detail or stuff areas with blocks. It's easy to keep adding stuff because the build doesn't look good yet, but most of the time, it's much better to simplify rather than to add. If you find that the build is getting busy, try simplifying the design or consider removing things. If done properly, this will give your builds that simple but smart look that they've always wanted. Number 4, predictability or repetitiveness. Now, this one doesn't apply to all situations. For example, if you're building a medieval city wall, you will have a pattern that you'll follow. But you can still find ways to make it more interesting. For instance, you can make sections of the wall diagonal, or add little towers here and there every few times the pattern repeats. This will go a long way to keeping each part of the build looking unique. Number 5, adding detail. It's important to add detail to your builds. You don't want to have blank walls or too many empty spaces. However, be careful balancing complexity and detail. Too much of one or of the other can throw off the entire build. Now, there are a few go-to strategies to accomplish this, and I'll be going over ways to create your own great ideas for detail in a future video. So, if that sounds helpful, go ahead and subscribe. And if it doesn't sound helpful, well, you can still subscribe. I mean, nobody's gonna stop you. I mean, it's free. Why would someone want to stop you from subscribing to my YouTube channel? Number 6, stepping back. You should often take a step back from your build and consider what you've done. Make sure that it's still looking good and is matching your plan for the build. If the build starts to get out of hand, you will be able to find out as soon as possible and be able to change it. A good example of this is episode 2 of the Kitty SMP. After building a small part of a mountain, I realized that it didn't quite look how I wanted it to. This allowed me to salvage the situation and adapt what I was doing before the entire thing was ruined. Well, those are all 6 of my building habits. Feel free to let me know if you found them helpful down in the comment section. And if they really helped you, or if you want to know more, go ahead and subscribe. I'll be making an entire video on each of these 6 habits, going in depth on exactly how you can achieve all of them. And in the meantime, go ahead and watch this video, where I talk about how to build in a specific style, the style of that video being run down or abandoned looking builds. But other than that, I will see you in the next video.